Okay, so like imagine this. You're walking into this huge factory. Right. And every which way you look, machines are going, robots are moving stuff around, and there's this sound, that kind of like hiss of air.
Oh, yeah.
That's pneumatics in action. And today, we're going to really dig into what it takes to be the people behind all that. Pneumatic engineering technicians.
It's a pretty cool gig, especially if you're the kind of person who likes to figure out how stuff works. Big stuff.
Totally. So, no more messing around. Let's get into it. What do these technicians actually do all day? I mean, it's got to be more than just like fixing air leaks, right?
Oh, way more. Think of it like this. They're a mix of engineer and, like, a detective for machinery. They got to make sure these big compressed air systems are running. Right, we're talking about everything from the factory lines to those robot arms you mentioned.
So, I'm picturing like massive blueprints spread out and those pressure gauges and all that.
You got it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing you might not expect. They're also the ones designing the systems that control all that power. It's pretty intricate stuff.
So, it's not just about getting your hands dirty then.
Our career guide source actually says it's a real mix of office work and hands-on stuff. One day you're at a computer, the next you're on-site fine-tuning a machine.
Sounds like it'd keep things interesting, that's for sure. But what about the day-to-day? Is it tough being a pneumatic engineering technician?
Well, it can be physically demanding, no doubt. Long hours on your feet, working with some heavy-duty equipment, sometimes in tight spaces. It's not for everybody, that's for sure.
Okay, so there are some downsides. But I'm guessing those are balanced out by some pretty sweet perks, right?
You bet. For one, everyone's looking for skilled technicians these days. The demand is through the roof. In fact, the Bureau of Labor Statistics says this field's going to grow like 10% in the next 10 years. Way faster than average.
10%. Seriously. Okay, so job security is definitely a plus. What about the money, though?
Yeah, the pay's good too.
Oh.
Since everyone wants pneumatic techs, the salaries are pretty competitive, especially the more experience and certifications you get under your belt.
Music to any job seeker's ears, right? So we've got high demand, job security, and good money. But who really thrives in a job like this? What kind of personality?
I'd say if you're someone who loves to solve problems, who really get a kick out of understanding how things work and how to fix them when they don't, this could be a good fit.
So it's like mechanical puzzles, but for a living.
Exactly. And you got to have an eye for detail because even a tiny mistake can cause big problems in those systems. Plus, being able to communicate well is key. You'll be explaining complex stuff to all sorts of people.
So it's about more than just knowing the technical stuff. You got to be a good explainer, too. And kind of a detective when things go wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, let's say someone's thinking long term. What's the career ladder look like for them?
Well, that's one of the cool things about this field. There are tons of directions you can go. You could pick a specific type of pneumatic system and become the expert in it, like maybe mobile hydraulics or industrial automation, stuff like that.
So lots of different paths to choose from. Always good to have options. What else is there besides specializing?
Well, you can move into management, right?
Yeah.
Like be in charge of a whole team of technicians or even run a whole engineering department.
So there's a path for people who like the leadership side of things, too.
Well, for sure. Or, and this is a big one for some folks, you could go into research and development. That's where you get to work on the absolute newest pneumatic tech, designing the stuff we'll be seeing years from now.
Okay, that does sound kind of cool. It's like our career stages source was saying, no matter what you're into, the learning never really ends in this field.
It really doesn't. And speaking of learning, how do people even get started in this career? The education part might surprise some folks.
Oh, yeah. I admit, I always pictured it as a very specific type of education, like tons of shop class, hands-on stuff, that sort of thing.
You're not wrong. There's definitely some of that.
Yeah.
But our source lists all sorts of ways to get there. Obviously, you've got your mechanical and electrical engineering degrees, but then there's stuff like mechatronics, automation engineering. It's pretty diverse.
Which makes sense when you think about how much pneumatics is tied to electronics and control systems these days.
Exactly. If someone's the type who loves tinkering with gadgets, figuring out the guts of how they work, those more specialized degrees could be right up their alley. But hey, a good foundation in mechanical or electrical engineering never hurt anyone either.
It's all about finding what works for you, right? But let's be real, a job like this, you need hands-on experience.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Our career guide source really stresses that. Internships, co-op placements while you're still in school, those are gold. You get to take what you learned in class and actually use it.
So acing your fluid mechanics exam is one thing, but troubleshooting a real system when the pressure's on, that's another.
Exactly. And you know what else can help? Personal projects. Imagine walking into an interview and you're like, oh yeah, I built a working robot arm with pneumatics in my spare time.
Now that's what I call standing out. That kind of passion goes a long way.
No kidding. And while we're on the topic of standing out, our source also says certifications are huge, like the Certified Fluid Power Specialist, the CFPS, or the CPT, Certified Pneumatic Technician.
It's like a shortcut to proving you know your stuff, right? Shows employers you're serious.
Yep, it's how you stand out, especially when everyone's vying for the same jobs. And it shows you're dedicated to learning and improving.
Okay, so you've got the education, the experience, maybe even a certification or two. Time for the interview.
That's where it all comes together.
What kind of questions should people be ready for? Give us the inside scoop.
Well, they're going to want to know if you actually understand the tech stuff.
So be ready for questions like, explain how a pneumatic cylinder works, or what causes pressure loss in a system, that sort of thing. So, got to dust off those textbooks, make sure you remember the basics.
Definitely. But it's not just about spitting out facts. They'll want to know you can solve problems. Think on your feet. Be ready for those curveballs, like tell me about a time you had to troubleshoot something really complex, or describe a situation where you had to get creative to find a solution.
Those are the ones that really test if you can use what you know, not just memorize it.
You got it. And that, my friend, is where those internships and personal projects we talked about, they become your secret weapon.
Yeah.
You've got real stories to tell.
It's like connecting the dots between what you know and what you can actually do.
Exactly. And let's not forget the whole people skills part of interviews. Being excited about the job, communicating clearly, working well with others, those matter just as much as your technical talks.
Gotta show them you're not just a robot who knows about robots, right? Now, I gotta ask, with all the crazy tech advancements happening, how's the whole field of pneumatics changing? Like, what's the future look like?
That's a great question, and honestly, anyone thinking about this career has got to be asking themselves that. What is the future of pneumatics?
Well, I'd say get ready for pneumatic systems that aren't just powerful, but smart. Like, seriously intelligent.
Okay, now you have to explain. What does that actually look like? Like on a factory floor, what's different?
Think about machines that basically predict when they need maintenance. They adjust their own air pressure, or maybe they send a little alert saying, hey, something's off, before it even becomes a problem, that kind of thing.
Whoa, okay, that's next level stuff, but how does it actually work?
It's all about how pneumatics is merging with electronics, with information tech, all that. Sensors, those tiny computers embedded in everything, even the Internet of Things, they all play a part in making these systems crazy smart and responsive.
So it's like we're taking these old school pneumatic parts and giving them like a digital brain upgrade. Exactly. And what that means for what's possible is huge. Like imagine a robotic arm that can actually feel how much force it takes to pick up something delicate. It adjusts its grip on the fly so it doesn't crush anything.
That level of control is kind of freaky, but cool. But what does this mean for someone who wants to be a pneumatic engineering technician? What skills do they need in this brave new world?
Knowing the mechanics isn't enough anymore. You got to understand both the old school stuff and all this new tech. So if you're the type who likes tinkering with gadgets and messing around with software, if the idea of programming a machine to fix itself gets you pumped, you're going to be in high demand.
So it's like the more skills you've got, the better.
A real tech wizard, right?
Sure. And don't forget those soft skills we talked about. The systems are only getting more complex, so being able to make sense of data, explain things clearly, and just roll with the punches when tech changes. Those are huge.
So you got to be a problem solver, a communicator, and always ready to learn something new. That's a lot. It is, but that's what makes it exciting. It's always changing, always pushing the limits of what we thought was possible.
You know, I gotta say, we started talking about hissing air, and now it's like we're having a glimpse into the future of, like, all industrial tech.
That's the thing about pneumatics. It's got this long history, but it's also got its sights set firmly on what's next.
So if any of our listeners are out there and they love the idea of mechanical power mixed with cutting-edge tech, if they like the challenge of making sure complex stuff runs smoothly, and if they want a career that's only going to get more important, well, becoming a pneumatic engineering technician might just be their calling.
Who knows? Maybe they'll be the ones designing those super smart systems we were just talking about. Now that's cool.
And on that note, we've come to the end of our deep dive into the world of pneumatic engineering technicians. Hope you guys found it useful, maybe even got you a little fired up about the possibilities.
And hey, if you're ready to take the next step, see what's out there, head over to RoleCatcher.com. That's the place to find all things career related.
Until next time, everyone, keep those gears turning, and we'll catch you on our next deep dive into the awesome world of work.